In this video, we're going to be taking a look at General Lando Calrissian for the Vintage Collection, and this is the re-released version of him with the photoreal face. This version of Lando did get quite a few repacks since his initial release, and he was released very early on in the TVC line. I forget what his number was, but I think it was in the 30s. And unfortunately, I missed out on that action figure at the time. I don't really recall seeing him at retail very much. So perhaps maybe Hasbro didn't produce a whole bunch of quantities of them, or maybe people were buying them out that quickly. I'm not sure. I just don't really recall seeing him very much at the time. The painted face on that one looks pretty good, though, from what I have seen. It's really hard to say if it's better or worse than the photoreal face here. This photoreal face does have a few drawbacks to it that I'll point out in a little bit. Then in the Black Series 3 3/4 inch line, as part of the wave with the Emperor's Royal Guard, the Clone Wars Ahsoka, and Admiral Akbar, he also did get a release yet again. And I distinctively recall seeing that action figure peg warm heavily just about everywhere. Between the 4 action figures in that wave, that one was definitely the easiest one to get. And Hasbro flooded the market with a whole bunch of those. And to this day, you can still find that action figure for a very reasonable price. I still passed up on it. Then, after the launch of the TVC line, very early on, when Hasbro decided to start repacking a lot of the TVC 1.0 action figures, Lando here was one of those choices, and then that's when I decided to finally go ahead and get Lando. I actually got this action figure from Tungori. I did not find him out in the wild, and as far as I can tell, there's really no defects with this action figure in any way. So I only paid a couple dollars through Tungori for him, which is not a bad deal at all. So in terms of Landos, I think this one's a pretty good one. Obviously now we have the definitive Empire Strikes Back Lando. That's probably going to go down as the best Lando for 3 3/4 inch. You can see the huge difference already between the two. His head is a lot more narrower on this action figure compared to this one, but still pretty good. I do really like this outfit for Lando. It looks really good. It's very striking. Very nice blue color. And it does have that look of being part of the rebellion, especially in his tunic here. And I really like how this holster is as well. It's a very unique position for a holster. Don't really see that too often on any of the Star Wars action figures. Has a stripe going down his pants. Kind of reminds me of like Han Solo's blood stripes. I wonder if there is a meaning to that. I'm not sure. There's the black boots there. The belt with all these various pouches on it. And of course his blue cape here, which looks very nice. It's held together by the strap that is made of soft goods. And it's easy enough to take this cape off if you wanted to. Looks like the holster is a separate piece as well. You might have a little bit of a hard time trying to get that around his arm. I suppose you could pop the head off. In fact, we'll just do that right now. Just see if we can do that. Yeah, you should be able to do that, but it's not really necessary. And I do believe this is an entirely newly sculpted action figure. There's no reused parts on this at all. He does have the rank badge sculpted there. In terms of his articulation, he does have a ball joint at the head, and hinged shoulders, elbows, swivel wrists, swivel waist. Then hinged hips, which at the time was kind of a big deal. Not too often on TBC action figures still up to this point that we got hinged hips. So that was very nice. And they're very flexible at that. And then hinged knees and hinged ankles. So definitely the best Lando that we had at the time. And to this day is still in the top 5. In terms of accessories, very light, but he doesn't really need a whole lot anyway. And it's just the one pistol. I suppose you can count the cape, maybe the holster, since it is a separate piece there. But this is his only real accessory. This is blaster pistol, which is unique to him. I don't think I've ever seen this on any other action figures before. And does fit securely in his hand. Looks very nice. And it fits securely in his holster there. What I will mention about the photoreal face is I have seen a lot of botched samples out there where the eyes are painted in various areas on his head, and sometimes the eyes are not very well defined at all. This sample's alright, but if you're on the lookout for a general Lando, would recommend being careful, especially if you're buying online. Especially early on when Hasbro went back to the drawing board to update the painted faces to photoreal. Oftentimes they came out very botched or they weren't very good. And this was in that era. Thankfully, I think this one turned out alright. There's a little bit of that smug appearance about him. I think that's pretty much all I can tell you about Lando here. Let's see if we can do any other comparisons here real quick. Just bring out Han Solo. See how they look together. They do look good together. And of course, his co-pilot on the Millennium Falcon, 9 Nub. Essential to have these two together if you have one action figure or the other. They do look good together. So would I recommend this Lando for your collection? I definitely would. It's one of the best Landos that Hasbro's ever made, for 3 3/4 inch that is. There is a Black Series action figure of him, which looks pretty good as well. But he does peg warm pretty heavily in most areas. In fact, I think he's still at a lot of my retailers. But is he number 1? That's debatable. He might be the number 1 Return of the Jedi Lando that we've gotten. But if you're only wanting one Lando for your collection, you might want this Empire Strikes Back one, which looks really good. I guess it comes down to your personal preference. There's a lot of great things about this Lando. I think the outfit's really good. The cape is great. The color scheme he has on his outfit is very nice. And overall, it's a great looking Lando. I'm happy he's a part of my collection. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There'll always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support, and check out some links in the description if you haven't done so already. Of course, as always, thanks for watching.